What's up, Internet? It's Yoshi here, and this video has been a long time coming. Here on my desk, I have a few hard drives. Got a 4 terabyte internal drive. We got a very speedy, very spacious 2 terabyte SSD, which I'm looking forward to. This 8 terabyte external drive, which is about to become an 8 terabyte internal drive. Today, we're gonna make it RAID! So, like I said, this is a project I've been working on for a couple years just because hard drives are kind of expensive. We're gonna make 2 separate RAIDs, well actually 3 separate RAIDs. We're gonna take these 2 hard drives, combine them to a 12 terabyte storage. We're gonna call it Snorlax because, of course. And then we've got another Thunderbolt 2 RAID down here underneath the desk that we're gonna install this SSD, make a super fast, speedy Final Cut experience. So let's get started. Unfortunately though, I have so many projects on there and they're all concatenated into one massive 15 terabyte drive. So step 1 is actually moving everything off of this Thunderbolt 2 RAID. And figuring out where all these files need to go and just waiting for the files to transfer is definitely the worst part of this process. This took about a day and a half. It's crazy. So now the next logical step is we're gonna take these 4 and 8 terabytes, combine them into one drive, and get them in my USB 3. Then I can finally move everything over, delete the RAID, start over, and install the SSD. So let's get started. All right, well, the first step is to open up this external enclosure, which is honestly really easy to do. It's all plastic. You just need to pry it open and pull it out. However, when we format it, before we format it, we need to use the original ports to wipe it because it thinks it's an external USB. So once this happens, this allows us to mount it internally to any configuration. And now that they're all formatted, we can add them to the enclosure. This is my USB 3 enclosure with 4 hard drive bays, and oh man, that's dusty. You're definitely gonna wanna dust your hard drive enclosures, and we'll really just dust everything in your house every once in a while. All we need to do is take out the drives and slide in the new Snorlax drives. This is super easy to do, just swap out the handles. Then we plug it back in, and just for a little bit of fun, I like to add PNG files to my important hard drives. Any sort of JPEG or PNG image will work, but I like the PNGs because they have transparent backgrounds, so naturally I have this Snorlax PNG. This makes it easier to find on the desktop, and of course it's a lot of fun. And here are some of my other super important hard drives. Pikachu is a 500 gigabyte SSD USB 3 that I use for fast editing and taking large files with me. Projects is my Thunderbolt 2 RAID, which we'll work on that next. And then YouTube is a 3 terabyte USB where I store all of my finished YouTube videos for backup. All of the extra space is also being used right now to hold all these other extra projects and files, of which I will move off eventually once all these RAIDs are complete and plugged back in. Now that we've got 12 spacious new terabytes, thanks to Snorlax, we'll move all of the Thunderbolt 2 files, or at least as many as we can, to this hard drive to make space so that we can break up the RAID. This is very time consuming, like I mentioned before. Just be patient. Once the files are moved off, I can delete the Thunderbolt 2 RAID. And this is it, my Thunderbolt 2 hard drive enclosure, very professional. Now all we need to do is take out the 5 terabyte, we're gonna use that for a time machine backup, and we're gonna swap it out for the 2 terabyte SSD for a super speedy RAID. Now that we've got those 4 hard drives set aside, cleaned out and back in the Thunderbolt enclosure, we'll set up a new RAID 0 and then begin transferring files back to this RAID, which again will take time, but we can do that in the background. Meanwhile, we'll work on this Time Machine RAID, which will include the old iTunes 8 terabyte hard drive and the old 5 terabyte hard drive from the Thunderbolt 2 enclosure. It's always good to take a quick break to play with the goodest boy. And now that the 2 Time Machine hard drives are formatted together, we just need to put them back into the USB 3 enclosure, and that's it. We're done. We made it RAID, guys. And now all the RAIDs are done with the USB 3. We've got the 12 terabyte and the 13 terabyte as backup. That's going to be used for all of my media files and everything on iTunes, on Steam, all my photos. While the Thunderbolt 2 RAID on the left has 12 terabytes inside, only 8 terabytes are accessible. And I know what you're thinking, oh, but Parker, why don't you just get an 8 terabyte hard drive? And the simple reason for that is speed. Now, these hard drives running on the Thunderbolt 2 enclosure get about 150 write and 177 read. Now, the SSD definitely fares better, 321 write and 380 read over USB 3, which seems to be bottlenecking the speed just a little bit. SSD plugged into Thunderbolt 2, we get 360 write and 404 read. However, with the speed of the SSD plus the space of the other 4 hard drives combined into RAID 0 inside the Thunderbolt 2 enclosure, we actually get nearly double the read and write speeds of just the SSD alone, with 622 write and 650 read. which means that for the RAID we're going 150 and 177 write and read, all the way up to well over 600, which is a huge performance boost. Not quite as huge as the built-in SSD. Apple does some serious magic with that stuff, but at the end of the day I still have speedy access to a rather large amount of storage, which is perfect for my video editing products, and that's exactly what I was going for. Well, hey, that's the end of the video. Since you made it to the end, maybe you liked it. Let me know by clicking that like button. And as you can see, there's a few new things on my desk. This year has been a huge year for upgrades for me, and these RAID storage configurations are just one of 5 major upgrades. Subscribe for more juicy details. Thanks again for watching. Bye!